First things first, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. Fun show today. Your guy, our guy, Troy Vincent, is going to be stopping by. We'll find out what's happening in the league. Bart Scott, always a good time. Wears nice shoes. So that's going to be fun. A couple headlines today. Freddie Kitchens is trying to tighten up the ship in Cleveland. Wait till you hear how. Drew Brees says he's as good as ever. Wait till you hear why. And Tom Brady's contract isn't exactly what it appears to be. That's where we kick things off on this Tuesday morning. So over the weekend, Brady reportedly got a 2-year, $70 million extension. Sounds great. $35 million a year for 2 years, seemingly, right? Well, fast forward to Monday when more details about the contract were released. It turns out Brady will actually be a free agent after this season because the 2 years void after the 2019 season. Here's what Tom Brady had to say about his future.
It's really the reality for most guys in the NFL. You know, I don't want to think that I'm any different than everyone else. Like, football's a tough business. It's a production business. And, you know, I'm ready to go this year, and that's really what matters, and that's where my focus is. It's a unique situation I'm in, you know. I'm 20th year with the same team, and, you know, be 42 years old. So pretty much uncharted territory, I think, for everybody. And, you know, I'm going to go out there and do the best I can this year and see what happens. It is what it is. That's a good line. So whoever said it, it's very pertinent. So, like I said, there's a lot of guys who have, you know, 1 year left on their contract. You know, so the situation, I got 1 year to go, and we'll see what happens.
All right, so once again, after this season ends, Brady could become an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career. So, Cece, what does that tell you about the future of Brady and the Patriots?
The Patriots have decided they're going to go year to year. They're going to allow Tom Brady to be somewhat in control, but not completely in control. And when Robert Kraft and his family decided to give Bill Belichick ultimate control over the roster, this is the way Brady's career is going to end. We know the Jimmy Garoppolo, we know the pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, like that was real. They don't have Jimmy Garoppolo, but now they do have age, father time. He's undefeated, and Belichick realizes that. Now, the last couple seasons, you see that he's made adjustments. Last year, tried to put the bonus package in there where he could earn more money. Didn't play well enough to be able to get that money. So you know what they decided to do now? Because Tom wanted a contract extension. They gave him a fake one, gave him more money this year, guaranteed him he'd be there this year, and they're going to play it out year by year. Regardless how many times Tom wants to go to the press conference and say, I want to play till I'm 45. You see, he changed his tune yesterday because Belichick did not give him the type of contract that him or his agent wanted. He told him, I will bump you up this year. And you know what, Tom? You're just like everyone else. We're going to wait and see as far as what we're going to do as far as moving into the future.
That is absolutely right and honestly absolutely remarkable to me. That Cris could say, Belichick said to Tom Brady, you are just like everyone else. And that is clearly what Bill Belichick has done. And maybe that is part of what makes Bill Belichick the greatest football coach we've ever seen, but it is stunning to me. Because here's what we know. None of these things are speculation. None of these things are hypothesis. We know this. We know Brady wants to play past this season. We know Brady wants to play for the Patriots for the entirety of his career if he can have it his way. And we know Brady has never demanded top-of-the-market money. We know all of those things. And so it then follows to reason that Tom Brady, what he wanted was a real contract extension, not a break-the-bank contract extension, but a real contract extension with some guarantees past this year. And the Patriots, meaning Bill Belichick, flatly refused to give it to him. And so I want people to understand, this is not they have a team option for 2020. No, this is not a contract extension, what he got over the weekend. It was cap manipulation, which is totally legal. A lot of teams do it. But they free up $5.5 million in cap space. He gets $8 million cash infusion. And the final 2 years of this deal automatically void on the final day of the league year. So unless they do another new contract this year, Tom Brady will be an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his entire career after this season. And that is, considering his last 3 years were execute greatest comeback in Super Bowl history en route to a title, 16, win league MVP, 17, win another Super Bowl, 18, that is his contract situation in 19 is unprecedented in my time following sports.
It's also remarkable in that they don't have a clear-cut backup plan. You could see if they had a guy they've been grooming like a Teddy Bridgewater or maybe even a Josh Rosen that, okay, they want to go year to year while they get someone up to speed. Right now they have Brian Hoyer and Stidham, who they drafted. But what do you think is more likely, CC, that he does become an unrestricted free agent and he goes to play for another team, or that he walks away from the game if the Patriots decide they don't want to bring him back?
No, I think there's zero chance that he goes to another team. I think the Patriots do want to bring him back. What the Patriots are going to try to do, from a running standpoint, physical standpoint, they're going to lean on their defense and their offensive line as Tom continues to age and as he retires. You can see last year, they believe they can improve drastically. Talking to people around New England, they believe their defense will be drastically improved. They had a losing record last year on the road. They were 3-5. They gave up more than a touchdown on the road than they did at home. So as they build this team, it's going to be based on physicality. It's not going to be based on Tom Brady throwing the ball. It's going to be Tom Brady being efficient on third, being efficient, not turning the ball over, and being really good late in close games, because you know the Patriots always play. They're going to play you tough. So they believe they can improve on it. How they go forward is exactly like they did week 16 through the Super Bowl, where they averaged 38 times a game. They ran the ball, 180 yards. That's what they are building. This is not going to be Tom Brady and the high-flying Patriots. I don't believe he becomes a free agent. And I believe if he has another successful season and he's healthy, they sign him to another one-year deal. At the end of Michael Jordan's career, Michael Jordan signed a one-year deal because he had some problems, because they weren't going to extend him and they weren't going to commit the dollars to the rest of that roster. So at the end, when Michael Jordan was in Chicago, it became a year by year. But I think with all the quarterbacks, if you look at Phillip Rivers, you look at Drew Brees, them quarterbacks they're not the same as Brady, but they're all going to be put in the same situation.
The one difference I would see between Jordan's end of his career and Brady's was Jordan, his final 2 years of his career, made $32 and $33 million respectively in an era when almost no one in the NBA was making even $12 million. So it was a series of one-year deals, but they were double or triple the market one-year deals.
What is Tom Brady making?
Tom Brady now is up to $23 million this year with the $8 million raise from 15. The last thing I'll say on this is I thought his response at the end there was very telling. He was asked by a reporter that I think maybe didn't have the full details of the contract. Is it some relief to have clarity on your contract situation? I mean, you didn't see it in the clip, but he took a long pause and then says, it is what it is, which is whose line, of course, Bill Belichick's, and said, listen, I've got 1 year left. There's a lot of things he could have said there to hide his frustration. Oh, yeah, it's great, excited, glad we got this done, got a little raise this year. He made it very clear to me that this was not the contract result he was hoping for. It won't distract him. I'm sure they'll be great. Maybe they'll use this money to add to the roster, the cap space. But this was not the way Don Yee and Tom Brady thought this contract negotiation was going to go.
And just for perspective, what is he making, 23, 24 million this year?
23 million.
And what does Dak Prescott want?
Well, we think probably
Upwards of
30-ish million.
Yeah, he's going to get it.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, we'll talk a lot more about this coming up. On the other side, though, Drew Brees thinks this could be his best season yet. We'll tell you why. We're asking next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We'll talk some Drew Brees in a second, but first, Nationals, Giants, Kurt Suzuki hitting the line drive to left center. Oh. Kevin Pillar laying out to make a great catch.
And I wonder if he's going to be a Gold Glover this year. I feel like he's been in butt first a bunch, covering a ton of ground in center field for the Giants. That's a heck of a play, man.
All right, moving on. This is the Atlanta Entertainment Basketball League. This is high school class of 2020, and this is shooting guard Jimmy Gatwich picking up Quinn Cook's pockets before hitting the 360.
This kid, he's got a highlight reel in high school like Zion, just without the enormous bulk and weight to him. He keeps inventing dunks in games. We saw him do the beneath both legs dunk a couple weeks ago. See, that was this kid.
This was what, the 360 between the legs?
Reverse.
I thought last week that was the best in-game dunk we've seen. He did that with so much ease. Comes around playing some defense, picks the guy's pocket. Yeah. I like that.
All right, Cowboys practice. This is for you, CC. Jason Witten.
How did this make
reaching back to complete the one-handed grab.
That ain't one hand. He brought the other hand in there.
How did this make the show? This is rude to Jason Witten. This is rude to him that we say this is an amazing highlight. This is like showing the 100-year-olds who run the 100-meter in a minute 40.
Don't be shading on Jason Witten like that.
One of the problems Cowboys had was red zone. So right here, that's a touchdown in the red zone, Bill, to help them out. If he can do that during the regular season.
There you go, see? Yeah. Way to put some shine on it.
All right, let's talk about the Saints.
Shine on his bald head. Has he got hair now?
I don't know.
Despite heartbreaking losses to end their last 2 seasons, the Saints are still tied with the Patriots and the Rams for the NFL's best record during that span. This year, a resilient Drew Brees will be playing his 19th season and said, quote, "I think I have the ability to be as good as I have ever been." Cris, how has Drew Brees been able to just be as good at this age?
Let's just remove the name.
Okay.
Why is Tom Brady so effective this late in his career? Why is Ben Roethlisberger so effective late in his career, over 5,000 yards? Phillip Rivers. Number one, the game's easier. The game's easier to play. You can't put the physical pounding on the quarterback that you used to be able to, so they've protected the quarterback more. The rules, as far as pass interference, illegal contact, all those things, they lead to the quarterback. The no huddle, having the mic in your helmet, that gives the quarterback a huge amount of information pre-snap. So right now, everything is led to the quarterback being very, very successful. When you can't hit them, they know you can't hit them. You can't hit them high. The quarterbacks can sit in the pocket, become more comfortable. I would say at this point, 2019, more quarterbacks are trying to play longer, and you understand the game. The game starts to slow down. It's as if you have the answers to the test. Tom Brady said that a couple of years ago in an interview. Drew Brees said that in an interview recently. So you know, Ben Roethlisberger, he continues to play at a high level. The game's a lot easier. The requirements in the offseason are not as strenuous. There's less time on the field. But for the quarterbacks, this NFL game is the friendliest that it's ever been. So Drew Brees takes care of his body. He loves playing the game. He's been in the same system for a long time there with Sean Payton. So you can see he feels like this will be his best season the way last season was, which he played, especially for the first 12 weeks, at an incredible high level.
And so that's in kind of the general reason that a lot of quarterbacks are playing so much longer than we'd expected at a higher level than we would have expected. For Drew Brees specifically, I thought an article we were talking about this morning by Albert Breer in the MMQB was really insightful about famed quarterback coach, or is it even mechanics coach? I don't know what his title is, Tom House.
Let's just say throwing coach, because he works with baseball pitchers.
Okay, throwing coach, that he will talk with Drew Brees regularly, and if he misses a pass, he will quiz Drew about what did you do wrong there. And it's about, elbow in, elbow out, the different types of different mechanical issues that he could be having. And I find it really fascinating that even at this age, this season, to see these guys, Tom's doing it, Drew's doing it. You said before the show, Peyton almost got it started doing it.
Yeah, if you would equate every quarterback to a golfer, then you wouldn't be surprised.
You're totally right, because golfers are always reworking.
Analyze every swing.
Every swing, for no matter how long they play. It's a really good analogy that I had never thought of till you just mentioned it. That because maybe in my head, and I think a lot of people's head, you think that once you get, unless you're reworking your throwing motion like Cam Newton, once you have a throwing motion as good as Drew Brees is, what you always talk about, over the top, where his height doesn't hurt him, that it's just a repeatable motion, and that if he has one get away from him, he knows instantly what it is, just get back to it. But working with someone on a day-to-day basis, trying to either improve, tweak, whatever, I'm certain that has contributed. It's almost a different version of sports science to his success, because he's not the athlete he once was, not that he was ever a superstar athlete. I'm sure he doesn't have quite the arm strength he once did, not that he ever had the strongest arm in the league.
I would be careful.
You disagree with that?
Working with Coach House and a number of other guys, Tom Brady, we saw this summer.
Yep.
He measured his ball velocity. It was faster than when he came in. So, yes, these guys, Drew Brees, his arm is as strong or stronger than it was at Purdue. And we're starting to see minor gains, but doing it for a long period of time. So even if it's a minor gain, but I've been doing it for 15 years, it adds a lot to a quarterback.
And then when you add the mechanics to his accuracy, to his ability to see the field, to his decision-making, a lot of that comes, like you said, with being in the league a long time, with knowing what defenses are going to give you. But do you think that the team that's surrounding him right now could be the best team he's had in his career right now?
I think they have a chance to be special. Excuse me. They have... Over the last 10 years, they've had a number of offenses that would go down NFL history as special offenses. And Drew Brees has put together, like Peyton Manning, some of the most historic seasons. But I do believe because of the lack in the last 2 years of tight end productivity. So they go out and get Jared Cook in free agency. Last 2 years, Saints tight ends have been one of the least productive we've seen in the NFL. Second fewest targets, only 150 in 2 years. We're talking about Drew Brees now. So they basically playing with 3 receivers. The tight end has only been a blocker. Their tight ends are the 5th fewest receptions, only 108 receptions over the last 2 years, and 4th fewest yards in 1,200, little more than 1,200 yards. So you add Jared Cook to a Michael Thomas, who I feel very comfortable with. Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield, playing more first and second down compared to just being a third down back. And I believe something you're going to see in the NFL, and I believe the Saints are going to be one of the teams guilty of it. Around the NFL, teams are not trying to play the fullback more. We saw New England get back to a fullback-centric offense. We're going to see not the fullback, but you're going to see more 2 tight ends in this NFL season. The Saints and Sean Payton, you can see them with Jared Cook and a number of other tight ends they have on the roster. So for me, that would be a vast improvement. Help them to be more physical at the point of attack and get those get those tight ends out in routes.
You asked if this could be the best team he's been on. Look, the best team he's ever been on is the one that won the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that just because they won the Super Bowl. That was the number 1 offense, and this is really surprising for the Saints, a number 4 defense.
Yep.
They had extraordinary players on both sides of the ball. Remember, a young Malcolm Jenkins, who's now with Philadelphia, was one of the safeties on the team. They had really good talent on both sides. When they missed the playoffs 4 out of 5 years, going 7-9 every single year, each of those 4 years, the 7 and 9 years from 2012 2016, they had either the worst or second worst ranked defense in football. The last couple years, when they have had tied for the second most wins or tied for the most wins in the NFL, they've had a league average defense to go along with, as Cris said, always a great offense with Drew Brees, even though the offense changed a bit with Ingram and Kamara being a more run-centric offense. I do think this Saints team has an argument that it is the most complete team in the NFL. And we have seen in that dome with that coach and that quarterback, if they have a top 15 defense, they're in the game for a Super Bowl. If they have a top 10 defense, they can become Super Bowl favorites. If they get enough pass rushers off the edge, they've spent a big investment on their secondary as far as being able to play nickel, having 3 competent corners. Pass rushers plus that corner play, if they can force some turnovers and play well in a very tough division, I trust the offense as much as any offense in the NFC.
All right, you mentioned the defense, you mentioned the tight ends. No one's worried about Ingram not being there. Is no one factoring that in?
I think that's the reason why, from a formation standpoint, Kamara carried the ball a lot more touches, 74 more touches in year number 2. That progression, he's always been a specialty back. He's a little undersized, slightly built. I don't want to see him carry the ball 300 times. So I believe also Latavius Murray comes over as a free agent, a big back from Minnesota, should be able to assume some of that pounding. So watch how many times he touches the ball. Can he be as efficient as an undersized running back when you bump up those touches? But I believe from a scheme standpoint, they're going to try to duplicate what they did the first 11 weeks of the season. Drew Brees, first 11 weeks, best QBR in the NFL, struggled from week 12 through the playoffs. He was around middle of the pack, I think around 12th ranked quarterback. So trying to continue what they got off to a blazing start last season.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, talk some Cowboys. How will Zeke's holdout impact Dak Prescott on the field? That's next on First Things First. On Saturday, it's a doubleheader on FS1. First, Bryce Harper powers the Phillies against the Giants. Then Nolan Arenado and the Rockies take on Manny Machado and the Padres. It almost rhymes. Coverage begins at 3 Eastern, at noon Pacific on FS1. and the Fox Sports app. Time now for us to go viral. All right, so check out Chiefs All-Pro receiver Tyreke Hill getting in some drill work with wide receivers coach Keith Williams. So you're familiar with this. What is Tyreke working specifically on here?
Yeah, this is the box drill right here. And one reason why I didn't think Tyreke Hill and the reason why speed guys aren't really good at wide receiver is because they can run fast, but they don't know how to stop. So what he's training them is how to make him stop and how does he accelerate in and out of the break. Watch his head placement. He wants to keep his head on the defender and just running the top of the route. You can't run an NFL wide receiver and run these types of routes over and over again. So they take away the pounding on the body, and they have you run in 5-yard increments so you can work on it. The wide receiver coach is watching. They got video on it. These are all eyeballs to correct your technique, but they allow you to burst in and out of your break. So when the coach says run in and out of your break, that's what he's trying to assimilate right there, trying to control his speed so when he gets to his mark, he wants to put his foot in the ground and accelerate in and out of the break. That's the way you're able to train yourself.
All right, that was incredibly informative, but I feel like you left out a very important part. That drill, that specific drill he was doing, was invented by who?
By me, the box drill.
Prior to Cris Carter, that drill did not exist.
I did that drill right there.
Do you get a royalty from it?
No. I did that drill right there for Nick Saban and sent him a video. He offered me a job to coach his wide receivers.
Had to move to Tuscaloosa.
Don't you feel like if you invented a drill,
I would have led with it.
You would have led with it.
Chris, he always surprises me, man. Don't know. He's when he's.
I mean, a number of coaches taught me 2 or 3 parts of it. I put it all together.
That, like a good inventor. You take different things from other people, make it your own.
Hey. All right, here we go. Stories to start your morning. Yesterday, NBA.com released an all-decade team voted on by a panel of which Nick was not on.
I don't work for NBA.com.
Okay, I'm just saying you wish you were on the panel. You're not on the panel.
Okay.
The first team was, am I right? LeBron,
Confirmed.
KD, Steph, Harden, and Kawhi. Did they get this right, Nick?
I want to give them credit. They did absolutely get this right. There were 4 no-brainers. LeBron, KD, Steph, and Harden, no doubt about it.
Yes.
The one other front court spot, when I saw Kawhi, my immediate reaction was, is that a little recency bias? Came into the league mid-decade, doesn't have enormous statistical resume. But the other people he's up against would be Melo, Blake Griffin, and Anthony Davis. Kawhi is the best individual success of those guys, 2 Defensive Player of the Years and the Finals MVP and team success. So I do think they got the first team right. I got some issues with second and third team. We don't have to get into that. They got the first team right, though. It's a good list.
Yeah, they had to get Kawhi on there. He had to be on the first team, especially the run that he went on. If you look at before the injury and look at his playoff averages, hey, man, my man Dusty got me hip to that one. He's been doing it for long enough, especially he deserved it.
All right, moving on to the Jets now. New head coach Adam Gase said that Sam Darnold was one of the biggest reasons he decided to take the job. Gase says Darnold is, quote, not the kind of quarterback you're looking to protect. You're looking to turn him loose. See, what does Darnold need to do to improve in year number 2 now?
Well, first, Adam Gase, stop lying. The reason why you took the job, because they offered it to you. All right?
You just got fired in Miami.
It's not
whatever
like
train was coming through, you were jumping on.
You and Greg Williams. Oh, I got 20 people calling right now. I told them, no, don't want to be a head coach. I want to be a coordinator. Yes, Sam Darnold, I like the fact that he was really honest because offensive coordinator head coaches, when you don't have a thrower of the football, you have to try to manufacture. And they tell every lie. They tell a bunch of stuff. Sam Darnold is the truth. He is going to be a star. Put some wideouts around him. They got L. Bell back there. This should be a perfect combination. Adam Gase, Sam Darnold, looking forward to it.
I don't know if what Gase is saying is going to prove out to be correct, that Darnold's going to be the quarterback he's talking about. But if you're a Jets fan, you love hearing this because the last thing you want to hear when you spend a top 3 pick on a quarterback is, well, we don't want to ask him to do too much. We're going to lean on Le'Veon Bell. No, you drafted this guy to be the face of your team and eventually the best player on your team. Gase seems to have the faith he could be that sooner than later.
All right, last season, Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey was on the field for 91% of Carolina's offensive snaps. That was by far the highest percentage in the league. Now the team wants to reduce the amount of time he's on the field, but not reduce his touches. So, see, how important is McCaffrey to the Panthers' success this season?
Outside of Cam Newton and Ron Rivera, he's the most important in the whole organization. I believe he set it as a goal last season, came up a little short, wants 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving. Man, there's only been 2 other people to be able to do it. I believe he's going to be the next guy to do it. You don't have to be on the field more. What they're basically telling you is, when he's on the field,
he's touching the ball.
He's getting the football.
Right.
He's not going to be out there running no decoy stuff.
No, and not going to be out there asking him to block as much, which it helps some of the wear and tear on his body as well. So I think this is smart. I think he would have gotten the 1,000, I think, last year if Cam didn't get hurt, which hurt his passing yards and obviously
one thing to
McCaffrey's
watch out for, because they're going to limit the number of plays. Watch defenses start to cue in. When he's in the game and it's a passing situation, let's blitz him, make him stay in so they can't throw to him, which keeps his reps down.
All right, on to the Cowboys now and a quick geography check. The team is in Oxnard, California, training for the season. Ezekiel Elliott is still in Cabo, Mexico, waiting for a new contract. And quarterback Dak Prescott, who himself is waiting for a new deal, is still being asked about it all. Here's what he had to say about Zeke not being at training camp.
I said I talk to him often, so.
Well, I didn't. I think this week, though. I mean,
No, I'm just messing with you. But, yeah, I have. I mean, I've talked to him. We've communicated. And as I said, I mean, obviously we missed the player that he is, but I know that he's getting better. I know that he's working on his game. He's in shape. He's going to make sure that he comes back. When he's back on his team, he's a better player than when than before camp or before the spring. And then, yeah, I mean, he's a good friend. Obviously, you want him out here, but that's business. Yeah, friendship is friendship and business is business. You don't cross those.
Listen, that's what you want to hear from your quarterback. It's not what we heard from Ben Roethlisberger last year when Le'Veon Bell was holding out, and he was saying, we'll deal with who we have here, meaning James Conner. So you like what you hear from Dak Prescott, but if Ezekiel Elliott continues to hold out, how does that affect Dak Prescott's ceiling, what he's able to do for this team?
I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's the best player on the team. And Dak, as much as he's trying to, the friendship gets mixed in with the business because it's impossible. You know the reason why? We only got one pie. And our friendship is based on that pie playing with the Dallas Cowboys. And if Zeke tries to if he resets the market as far as running backs, it's not going to affect Dak, but it's going to affect the ability for the Cowboys to put other players as they move forward. So it becomes impossible. Like, I'm going to call Zeke and ask him, Zeke, how your workouts going? Because I'm sure that they're talking. He alluded to that they're talking. How your contract talks going? So he's going to avoid that because Dak's $30 million, $28 million, whatever he comes in at. Like, I mean, it's
all tied into what Dak is going to eventually get.
As much as you like to be a leader and everything, if they don't get your money right, how you going to lead the team? When they drafted Randy Moss, Dennis Green called me.
That's a great story.
Hey, man, this kid, we're going to take him, Cris. I know you're going to take care of him. I said, yeah. As soon as we got off the phone, as soon as they pulled that number, Randy Moss, I called the general manager, told him I wasn't coming to Minnesota unless I got some money. Unless I got a 4-year deal. I was in year number 12, I think, then. I said, I want a 4-year deal. I want to end my career because you guys have officially drafted my replacement.
Put me on the clock.
So I know how much money he's going to be making as a first-round pick. That's not getting ready to happen. Randy and I were great friends. The business, we got the business and everything done so the friendship could thrive and flourish.
Would there have been no friendship if that deal didn't get done, if the GM said no?
Well, you wouldn't have invited.
I'm not going to extend myself, but so far.
Right.
Okay.
You know, the reason why I take very few days off here, I'm not going to help someone, assist them in their broadcasting career, then Fox come and hire them and take my spot. I'll be damned. No, if you want to get some reps, go somewhere else and get them.
Wally Pitts.
Yeah, you're not going to be, no, not going to happen to me. The business and the friendship, you have to make them work because they will coexist.
And to fill in some blanks here, because I love this story, and you know I've talked about it, as soon as the contract got worked out, then Cris called Randy, come down to Florida. We'll work out together. It wasn't so much as that Cris maybe would have just not shown up in Minnesota, but certainly wouldn't have gone that extra mile. Certainly wouldn't have done the things that Randy needed as a young player out of Marshall who had some growing up to do, I think is very fair, as almost everyone does at that age, maybe Randy in particular, and some just learning about the NFL.
Yeah, even if he had been Larry Fitzgerald, it wouldn't have mattered.
He still needed. It would still need it.
Business is business.
Oh, you mean as far as right? Because Larry's someone you've known since he was a child.
Yes.
If they'd have drafted him. As far as on Dak and Zeke, to bring it back, man, what was Dak without Amari, and what was he with Amari? Zeke is better. Zeke is to me more important to Dak than Amari. Even though Amari's the guy he's throwing to, If Zeke's not there, guess what? Amari's doubled, and you're not throwing to him that much anymore either. Guess what? All those beneficial fronts, that even those fronts you couldn't always take advantage of if you're Dak, those are gone. And now all of a sudden they are dropping extra guys into coverage. They have someone pretending to blitz who's actually going to drop back and try to trick you. So much of Dak is in a place in his career, and I don't want to act like he will always be here, but he is right now, where he needs a really stable and really advantageous 10 guys around him in order for him to be anywhere close to a force multiplier. If you remove the most important piece, if you remove the piece that defenses worry about the 5 days leading up to a game, it impacts him more than anybody, more than the offensive lineman, more than Amari, more than anybody. So, yeah, listen, Dak's in a weird spot because he wants his money.
Sure.
But he needs Zeke. And what he doesn't want, I'll tell you what Dak doesn't want, is for his deal not to get done, his being Dak's, and Zeke not to show up, and the Cowboys to see 4 or 5 games of Dak without Zeke until he has his money locked in. That'll cost Dak a hell of a lot more money than Zeke getting a few extra $1 million and cutting into that salary cap pie.
It's getting complicated. By now, you've heard the hype surrounding the Cleveland Browns. How could you not? New coach, great players, sky-high optimism for the first time in years. Well, yesterday, first-year head coach Freddie Kitchens gave us a glimpse into how the show will be run moving forward.
The days of inside information and the days of unnamed sources and stuff like that have ended. So you're not going to get any information like that ever. Anybody. And if I ever see it, they're fired immediately. That's the way we're running this organization. And I can take it. John Dorsey can take it. We won't crack, I promise you.
We should give just a little context to what he was referring to Bob Wiley, the former offensive.
The former O-line coach you guys probably saw in Hard Knocks, kind of the comedic relief of last year's Hard Knocks. He had said some things that Kitchens shouldn't have gotten the job, essentially. It should have gone to Greg Williams. And Freddie Kitchens he said, I don't want to say anything bad about Bob. He's recovering from ankle and knee surgery. And then he crushed him. I mean, he went after him pretty hard. And it was, to me, this was Freddie Kitchens' first young coach mistake. I think Freddie Kitchens responding to it, giving life to it, and getting that riled up about what Bob Wiley had to say, I think that's something maybe you'd want back, maybe you wouldn't, but I don't think a veteran coach would have fallen into that trap. A guy who used to work there.
I mean, Belichick would have definitely fallen for that.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's not fair to compare him to Belichick, but I think a lot of coaches would have just said, hey, Bob did a great time here. We decided to move in a different direction. We're worried about the Cleveland Browns.
But the truth is, listen, this is part of being a new head coach. There's a lot of hype. There are a lot of expectations for this team. You got a hotshot quarterback. You're going to have a ton of media. How hard is it going to be for this team to live up to all the hype that's surrounding coming into this season?
This is the thing in the NFL. If you're talented, the hype, what is it? I mean, because if you're talented, you're just talking about the talent there. Hype is something you're trying to push something that maybe necessarily people can't see. So to me, the conversation about Cleveland, it's not hype. They're one of the most talented rosters that we have in the NFL. They have one of the bright, up-and-coming quarterbacks, personalities in Baker Mayfield. They have one of the electric wide receivers that we've seen in the NFL the last 5 years in OBJ. Last year, we saw Baker Mayfield quarterback them to 6 wins after winning 1 game the 2 previous seasons. That's not hype. That's talent. So Freddie Kitchens, I can understand. If it was a veteran coach and he said the same thing, we would turn it some different. Everything Freddie Kitchens said, we're going to make the excuse that, because he's a rookie coach. If they were having a problem, it doesn't matter. Head coach is a rookie or 20 years. He should have addressed it. He should have said exactly what he said. I talked to John Dorsey this weekend. I talked to Alonzo Highsmith, and they are cutting out a lot of the things that bad organization and bad teams, all those rumors, being sources, taking information from the building, outsourcing it to other people, write about it, and don't attach your name. They are removing all those types of things. But I don't believe that Cleveland, it's hype. Because what I'm looking at, they're talented. I can go up and down their roster and tell you their offensive line finished football last year second best Pro Football Focus. They got Kareem Hunt joining Chubb. Chubb coming off a second year. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. Their defense, I believe they have a Pro Bowler at every level. Their middle linebacker, I believe, is unsung. I believe people will start to know about him as we go through the season. So this is a talented roster. They haven't won together, so maybe we should come up with another word. But when you're talented, to me, it's not about hype. When you have talent, Zion, how could he ever live up to the hype at Duke? Pretty talented. Did he not?
Yep.
Did he not? So for me, when you're talented, I think there's something else. Will they live up to their potential? I believe that they will.
Well, and we should really remind the audience, we're not expecting a 6-win jump. This team wasn't 4-12 last year. They were 7, 8, and 1. With questions, with a change at quarterback, a change at head coach, and offensive coordinator, all of that. 7 wins, 7, 8, and 1. 3 losses on a field goal at the end of the game.
Yep.
if just those field goals go different, last year's team is 10, 5, and 1 and wins the division. So we aren't the. Sometimes there are teams. It's like, man, they added all this talent, they did all this, but the year before they went 3-13. It's like, okay, hey, take a 5-win jump. You're 8-8. If the Browns win 3 more games than they did last year, they're in great shape, and they could have won 3 more games last year than they did last year. Like, so I don't think it's overselling it. I got in, friends in Pittsburgh had me on the radio yesterday to talk about how could you like the Browns more than the Steelers? It's like, well, there was a 2-game separation in the standings last year. The Steelers objectively had more talent walk out the door than come in the door. The Browns objectively had a ton more talent walk in the door than go out the door. Like, it's not a big gap last year between them, the Ravens, and the Steelers.
2 teams last year. L.A. Rams. Did they live up to the hype?
Absolutely.
Kansas City, Patty Mahomes. Did they live up to the hype?
Exceeded it.
Oh, okay. It has a lot to do with talent.
Yep.
Except that you're not picking them to make the playoffs coming off a 7-win season. You're picking them to win the Super Bowl.
No, I'm not. I'm
You
picking
don't
them to
think
win
they're
their
gonna win the
division.
Super
No.
Bowl?
I'm
Oh.
picking them to win their division, which is how you
All
make
right,
the
I
playoffs.
thought you were picking them to win the Super Bowl.
I haven't done
thought
a
you were
Super Bowl
picking them to
pick
win
yet.
10
That would be
Super
bold.
Bowls in a row.
That would
That's
be a
what I
bold
thought.
pick by me. I think
right.
Chris might have mentioned
Take
it.
a break. What do
Kansas
Tom
City.
Brady's new contract details reveal about his future as a Patriot? That's ahead on First Things First.
Kansas City. You and I are picking New England.
We are, okay.
We just got a little. We got New England.
Okay.
He's going to have Kansas City in the AFC.
But you don't know yet.
Welcome back to First Things First. Former Pro Bowl linebacker Bart Scott is here. Hey,
What
Bart.
up, man?
What it do?
How are you?
Great minds think alike.
Yes, sir. What? What happened?
He used my line. That's a great line.
He can do it, though.
That's your line?
That's my line.
What it do is your line?
Your street cred just went up, Jen. Don't even worry about it.
Oh, God.
Wait till the next time she says it, though.
Yeah, she'll say,
Whatever
what
point she got.
doesn't it happen?
That is not what's going to happen.
I didn't mean to throw y'all off. My bad, my bad.
Making fun. I was Bart, let's change topics from greetings and
Come on,
talk
get it right,
Patriot.
Jenna.
Boom.
Let's do it.
Hey, it's Nick Wright, and hiring is challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is, of course, ZipRecruiter.com/approach. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invites them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. And right now, our listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/approach. That's ZipRecruiter.com/APPROACH. ZipRecruiter.com/approach. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Your former teammate, Bart Scott, Ed Reed, was asked about facing off against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick over the years. Said, quote, I loved those games going against the greats. Who else would you rather go against? That's high praise from one of their toughest foes. So, Bart, it leads us to ask this question. Who deserves more credit for the Patriots' success? Is it Tom Brady or is it Bill Belichick?
I mean, I have to tip my hat off to the structure that Bill Belichick has done. He seemingly always gets out of contracts before they go bad. He gets out of contracts a year early. You think about Seymour, you think about, Lawyer Malloy and some of those tough decisions that he's made. But I have to give the credit to Tom Brady because he's an unselfish superstar. In the world of getting yours, he makes sure that everybody else gets theirs too. We're talking about his new contract, and we'll get to that later. But one thing I do know that he's never wanted to take all the pie. Right, when you think about some of the quarterbacks that have made the most money, he's not amongst them. You think about Eli Manning, you think about Peyton Manning. He's always leaves enough cheese on the taco for everybody else. And that allows them to be able to make moves throughout the year. And still, when you look at his productivity, and Bill Belichick's not throwing any passes. He's not taking any hits. And Tom has always been able to elevate the play of the players around him. He's never had other than Randy Moss, great receivers around him. He's had self-made guys that he's elevated their play. And he's their best offensive player. He's their best defensive player as well. So I have to give a credit to Tom Brady.
So I don't think it is disproportionate in one direction or the other. I don't think it's 90-10 or 80-20. But what I do think is they're in a situation where the sum is clearly greater than either individual part, meaning they've won 6 Super Bowls and been to 9 together. If Brady had his whole career with just call it a league average coach, I do think he's a Super Bowl champion, maybe a couple of them, but nowhere close to 6. And if Belichick has his whole career with league average quarterback, just median level quarterback, I do think he's a good enough coach, especially defensively, good enough manipulator of the cap, that he could have won a Super Bowl. But 2 + 1 = 3, not 6. So I think together is what makes him special. But when I look at Brady, I say he and Jerry Rice, maybe, the only 2 that come to mind. 2 guys that have had 2 separate Hall of Fame careers.
Yeah.
If he stopped in 2010, 3 championships, a league MVP, another trip to the Super Bowl, that gets you into the Hall of Fame. If he started in 2011, 3 championships, 2 more trips, 2 more league MVPs, that gets you in the Hall of Fame. So there's a Hall of Famer based on 2000, 2010, and the Hall of Famer from 2011 to 2019 right now. I also think Brady's willingness to be coached and non-superstar, non-diva stuff has such a important, in a positive way, pervasive effect on the locker room that if I have to give it split the pie, I'd go 55-45 Brady. Now I know Cris adamantly disagrees with both of us, but the level of his ability to remake himself and to play for such an absurdly long period of time compared to anyone in NFL history, to me, tips the scales in his favor.
Well, I'm not surprised I disagree with you. It's not your fault. But this dude over here, after being in the NFL locker room, knowing the impact, because I'm going to go through. I'm in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to go through all the Hall of Fame coaches. Shula, let's go Walsh, let's go Belichick, and let's go Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi. You can have any quarterback. Marino, Montana, Brady. You can have any quarterback. Which one would you take? Would you take the legendary coach, or would you take any of the quarterbacks? Just a quick answer.
I would take the quarterback.
The greatest quarterback. I got to take
Okay, no problem. But what the quarterback doesn't have an effect on, he doesn't have an effect on scouting. He doesn't have an effect on how we're going to run business. He doesn't have an effect on the ball boy. Y'all think that Brady has an effect on the ball boys there? No. Who sets the tempo and the agenda is Bill Belichick. When free agents come there, they're not there to meet Tom Brady. They are there to see the Patriot way. Bill Parcells, good friend of mine, he won 2 Super Bowls with average to above average quarterback. So it lets me know that Belichick, cut from the same mode, who runs a more aggressive offense or allows his offense to be run more aggressively. That's the reason why he's been able to transition through the last 3 decades successfully, is because his adopting a philosophy, we're going to throw the ball. So to me, it's one-sided, and it's Belichick. I've been in the NFL locker room 16 years, and I know the impact the coaches. I tell more stories of Dennis Green and what he taught me than I do about Warren Moon, Reggie White, Randy Moss, or the other 8 Hall of Famers that I played with. Institutional talent is far more valuable than athletic talent, and Tom Brady is the GOAT. But Bill Belichick, the standard that he sets, the tempo, the atmosphere, the air, when you go down the hallway there, he has set that. And that's the reason why it's lopsided for the coach, for the general manager, and Bill Belichick.
But who empowers the coach? The best player there, because he has the humility to be coached. He has the humility to be coached, and he allows everybody else to be coached hard.
How did they win this last Super Bowl? Tell me.
Defense. Absolutely. There's no question about it.
How'd they win the first two?
What? Defense. But how'd they win the middle two? Or, I mean, how'd they win the Falcons
No,
one?
but those are just the Super Bowl. So even if we split them, I know the institution is created by this guy. Tom Brady's not. Tom Brady wanted more money. Tom Brady wasn't trying to leave more cheese on the taco. But he was trying to put double meat on there, and Belichick told him, you know something? You're going to get stuffed.
But
you're not. You're going to be full. But you don't know what you don't know.
But if he walked away, that team can't win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. Without him, you can't just say input so-and-so and you have the same championship. Players come there because of Brady as well, because they know they want to play with him, because they know they're going to have an opportunity. If you take Brady from the equation, and listen, this is all going to be proven
Michael Bennett
when
didn't
he
go
leaves.
there to play for Tom Brady if Belichick wasn't coaching that defense. So, yeah, guys go there.
That defense ain't great, though. That defense not great. It plays a good system.
I'm willing to bet you a substantial amount of money they're a top 5 defense this year. And I guarantee they're a top 5 in points this year.
And why would they be a top defense? Because the opposing team's going to be trying to keep up with the offense that's lighting the scoreboard up. So he's their best offensive player and their best defensive player. Because if he's putting up the points, that means the other teams is going to be in their nickel package trying to put up points, trying to keep pace.
Tell me, out of all these great offenses, how many Super Bowls these great offenses have won?
Well, the 12 highest scoring teams in league history haven't won the Super Bowl. That's a good point. You need a complete team. But to your point that Parcells, a great coach, can win with average quarterbacking, totally agree. But we've seen great quarterbacks win with average coaching. We saw Steve Young win with George Seifert. We saw Peyton Manning win with Gary Kubiak.
Go to Dallas for a minute.
What?
Yeah, those teams were stacked, though.
Absolutely.
Like, those teams were stacked. It wasn't like the New England team.
No, but listen, Bill misses a lot. The general manager, Bill Belichick, misses a lot.
I mean, when you're making a bunch of decisions, of course you're going to.
And who makes up for the mistakes? Tom Brady, because you always got a chance.
Okay. I mean, you can believe what you do. I understand why you believe what you do. This fool over here, he's been in the NFL locker room, and Tom Brady gutted you.
Because I played with horrible quarterbacks.
Anyway, can I just say one thing? Today is Taco Tuesday. So if we want to get
cheese on the taco.
There
you know what I'm saying?
So it all kind of comes full
Tom
circle.
wanted 2 tacos.
You was putting extra cheese on your taco. You wouldn't save no tacos for nobody else to eat, Chris.
Taco Tuesday. Take a break.
I'm the one
Much more
providing
first things
for you to
first right after this.
Well, I appreciate that. But listen, you ain't give me no sour cream.
Who's more important?
You didn't give me no sour cream. You just gave me some lettuce.
Back here with Bart Scott, we are going viral. Marlins prospect Isan Diaz making his MLB debut last night after going hitless in his first 2 plate appearances. Diaz stepped up in the 6th facing Jacob deGrom, and the Marlins broadcast went live with his dad. It's great. Check it out.
We managed to get to this point, so yeah, we're extremely happy for him.
Is this an emotional day for you?
Very, very emotional. If you are a dad who grew up throwing the ball to your kid in the backyard and you cherish that, and then to see your kid hit a home run in the majors, I can't even imagine.
Project Wolverine is a failure right now. Jeter's killing that team.
Come on. All right, that's fine. Side note.
It was a great moment.
I'm a Mets fan.
You're just ruining everything.
They took the L.
Man,
They took
Debbie
the L.
Downer
That was
over
great,
there.
man.
That ball was still going. When it hit the stands there.
Well, you should have saw the one. You should have saw the one J.D. Davis hit after.
Oh my God! Shut up, Bart.
We get
How
the game. We watch the game. We
Turn the
get it.
channel.
Back to
You keep talking like that, people are going to turn the channel.
NFL now, where Bart's actually excited. Despite heartbreaking losses to end their last 2 seasons, the Saints are still tied with the Patriots and the Rams for the NFL's best record during that span. This year, a resilient Drew Brees will be playing his 19th season. Said, quote, "I think I have the ability to be as good as I have ever been." All right, Bart, how has Drew Brees been able to be so good at this age?
Yeah, I heard you guys talking earlier, and I had to totally agree with Cris for once. I think it's because the rules of the game are so easy now that these guys are able to play at such an advanced age, and every year, 300 guys are coming in. You have the 35% turnover rosters. Yep. They're seeing it for the first time. The fact that he's been able to be with Sean Payton and he's able to stay in the same system allows packages to grow. I remember when I was in Baltimore, the fact that I was with Rex my whole career.
What does that mean to the packages grow?
Well, the packages grow. You come in with, say, okay, we're going to do this out of 3 wides. And then, you dominate a year, you can always go back to some of that data, right? So you can say this team's playing us like this, and you can go back to, remember in 2008, okay, we can counter that with this. And everybody understands that.
With
and
the
it's
base
like that,
original package.
And it's that nonverbal communication that you have with your coach, understanding that, listen, I can't prepare you for every situation, but I can give you tools to your toolbox, and it's up to you to be able to know which one to pull out. Whether you're changing your hot route, whether you're flipping your formation, whether you're going and understanding, okay, well, this guy's going to be hot, I'm going to take a hit. Okay, I'm going to check to a fade on the backside. The fact that you've been together so long, and what happens is new players that come in, they get that information immediately because you know what they because Brees tells them what to expect and what he's thinking. So what happens is they can think through any situation, right? So the fact that they've been together for so long, the fact that they've improved this defense, and understanding that Drew Brees has limitations in his physical ability. He played great early in the season, but then he got that dead arm period where he really couldn't push the ball down the field. So now they know they're going to have to run the football more and kind of save him, put him on a pitch count. The load management is what new athletes do now, and win the game sloppy early on, knowing that they only need him to be special late in the game in certain situations, not carry them like he did early in his career.
Yeah, the league's always going through trends, and right now you've seen with Drew Brees and Sean Payton over the last couple years, they've decided to be a lot more physical, running the football. Yeah. Kamara, Ingram. Ingram's gone. They've gone to Latavius Murray, a free agent from Minnesota. He's supposed to come over to be able to share the load. Also, around NFL training camps and the Saints, teams are practicing more 2 tight end formation. So they're going to remove the fullback even more, place a tight end. So now you don't have a weakness. You don't have a strength. Is the strength to the right or the left? You are a balanced formation. You can be strength running to your left. You can be strength running to your right. Bart is right. They do have all this additional information. When a coach puts in a play, he puts in the coaching points at the bottom of the play. This play right here is not good against cover 2. If they blitz you off the weak side, your number 4 receiver, he's got to go hot. So you got an encyclopedia of information that the system is more fortified. And when you have continuity, Coach Mangini talks about it all the time. When you have guys who have played in the same system, the next year you can add to it. You can say, something, Bart? The Rams play the same defense we play, but their weak side linebacker, we put him in this position. We want to try to, and they show you these clips of these other teams doing it. You're like, oh, we'll add that to what we're doing. So these quarterbacks have more answers to the test. The game is easier for them. As I played, my year 7 through year 16, the game was easy. Some of the game was in slow motion because also that turnover. I'm playing against younger DBs. They didn't know my skill set. They hadn't played against me. So you're able to take advantage of that freshness and of the turnover in the NFL. New personnel every year, and these coaches, these quarterbacks are carving these defenses apart.
And as far as Brees is concerned, yeah, you got the mechanics there. The accuracy is there once his arm strength comes back. The ability to really see the feed and to see the field and take it all in. But Nick, is this the best team that he's had around him since he's been in New Orleans?
Orleans?
I think it's the best team he's had since they won the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl team had a top 5 defense go along with the #1 offense. When they were missing the playoffs 4 out of 5 years, they had a bottom 2 defense, 31st or 32nd ranked defense every year. Last couple years, it's moved back into the top 15. If that defense can move into the top 10, I think they're the favorites out of the NFC to go to the Super Bowl.
Here's the difference. What's the last smart defense that we've had in this league?
Smart defense?
Smart defense. Hey, listen, we've had defense with great talented players, but smart defense is defense that can fool quarterbacks. I would say
Baltimore.
Baltimore or the Seattle Seahawks was the last group of defensive players that we thought were intelligent, that can really understand how to play the scheme and how to be played at
how to counter this veteran quarterback.
Exactly. It's a great quarterback.
All right, Bart, we'll see you a little bit later on the show. Got to take a break. Coming up, what should we expect from Cam Newton in his preseason debut this Thursday? That's next on First.
When was the last smart analyst we had sit over there?
Oh, right here.
It's been a minute.
Do I need to get that pencil?
Get one.
Do I need to go get that pencil?
I think we got one waiting in the hall.
Sunday, an MLS doubleheader kicks off on FS1. First, legends collide as Wayne Rooney and DC United battles Zlatan Ibrahimovic and the LA Galaxy. Then LAFC clashes with the New York Red Bulls. It all starts 7:30 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. We'll get to Cam Newton in a second, but first, Atlanta Entertainment Basketball League high school class of 2020 shooting guard Jimmy Gatwich picking Quinn Cook's pockets before hitting the 360 under the legs dunk.
This kid, we saw him go under both legs a couple weeks ago in game. See, you pointed out, the ease with which he does this is, it's unbelievable. I'm at a loss for words with Jimma.
Yeah,
we're going to see him like Zion over the next couple years in these highlights, repeatedly.
I wonder what they're going to do next.
All right, Cowboys practice. I mean, if you have never seen this before, check out Jason Witten reaching back to complete the one-handed grab.
Oh, come on, man. This is rude to Witten. Calling this, of all the things that happened in NFL training camps yesterday, this is the most remarkable thing, or it's just remarkable?
Man, he's out of bounds, man.
60-year-old man.
No, because he's out of bounds. Watch the catch here. His right hand hits it, then his left, once he gathers it, watch his right foot. That's out of bounds.
Out of bounds. Correct.
I think he should go back and do some TV.
You know what that reminded me? Speaking of out of bounds, you owe me some money.
You guys take inbounds, out of bounds so seriously.
Our bet on Fitzy.
Finally, University of Wisconsin wideout Aaron Cruikshank with an OBJ-like one-handed catch of his own.
Okay,
so you like this one better?
Oh, this is nice right here.
Oh, that's a great catch.
Oh, no, he secures this one, takes it to the ground.
You know what he catches it with, C? Oh, no, he doesn't. I thought he caught the tip of the ball. He caught it on the side. One-handed, the way he gripped it. Watch. That's impressive.
So I like the way he's...
Let's go, Wisconsin.
Knotted the back of his shirt.
I think the Buckeyes going
to
do something to the Badgers this year.
On Thursday night, Cam Newton and the Panthers will be in Chicago to face the Bears. Logic would dictate that Cam, fresh off shoulder surgery, would sit this one out, ease into the preseason. Logic would be wrong. Panthers head coach Ron Rivera said that Cam plans to play. All right, C, what are you looking for from Cam on Thursday against that great Bears defense?
I think that Ron Rivera is trying to send a message. They've made some changes around that organization, and they want to get back to a more consistent, physical style. It is the best interest of the quarterback to be able to play as long as he can, especially after Cam with the offseason that he did have. So I think it's a good message to send to the team. Cam wants to be out there, and I want to see Cam's new fundamentals under duress. So I want to see the accuracy. I want to see when people get in his face, if he can't step into the throw, can he be as accurate as he is when he's stepping into the throw? With Cam, it's all about his fundamentals. I do believe he'll play in a style where he'll protect his health until he's got to, until the regular season. But I'm looking for Cam Newton to continue to build on the 68%, which was the highest percentage that he had completed in his career last season, even before he got dinged, Nick.
And I know, listen, we'll probably see Cam for one series in this game. But throughout the preseason, I'm also looking when we see Cam, not only with his fundamentals, but on his rapport forward with DJ Moore. Since this Panthers team been trying to replace Steve Smith for a long time. They drafted Kelvin Benjamin #1. They went 15-1 without him and then shipped him off. They drafted Curtis Samuel high, and he's young, but his first couple years have not been the production they had hoped.
Injured.
They were injured and kind of struggled transitioning to full-time wide receiver after playing a slightly different role at Ohio State, if I remember correctly. And so DJ Moore being a legitimate #1 to go along with Christian McCaffrey, who will probably lead the team in targets. At this point, I don't think you can book a lot of production from Greg Olsen just because he's had such a struggle with injuries. And then the question is, for Cam, can he do what you're talking about, see, which is repeatedly, even late in games when he's fatigued or when he's under pressure, stick with what I thought he was sticking with last year, which was the adjusted throwing motion and the adjusted offense of, I don't have to take deep shots down the field. They went from being a deep shot offense almost exclusively to under Norvin Scott Turner. They're throwing to the running backs more. They're throwing short in the flats more, which are going to raise your completion percentage, which are going to help you get more of a consistent movement of the chains as opposed to one big shot down the field being your drive.
How long before all of that is second nature to a player? When you learn something new, whether it's mechanics or a different way of thinking or situational football, to go out there and actually implement it?
I think that everything that I've seen with Tom Brady over the last several years, Drew Brees, read an article about him, it's never going to be second nature. And those guys are more natural throwers of the football than the physical specimen that Cam is. So if Drew Brees has said, I'm working on every throw to make sure that it's perfect, if Tom Brady said, I'm still working with a throwing coach at 42, we shouldn't think that Cam Newton is going to have his handle around this when he's been a dual threat quarterback ever since his formidable, even before his high school years, because he's always been a physical specimen. So he'll be working on this until the last year in the league, throwing the football. It's one of the fundamentals. We call it, I'm working to master it, knowing I will never be able to master it. And Cam has to get more Drew Brees, more Phillip Rivers, more Ben Roethlisberger, more Tom Brady-ish as he transitions into his 30s.
And he also has to not remove, and I'm not concerned that he will, the running component of his game. Where this offense is the best is where Cam, on 3rd and 6, does see the hole, run, and then do a little first down motion. When he is getting the crowd fired up. We can't forget this part about Cam. His energy is infectious. Now, early in his career, at times it was infectious in a negative way. Towel over his head, sulking on the sideline, people criticize him for it. But when he's going good, and that includes plays with his legs, that team feeds on it. And so he's never going to be Tom Brady, Drew Brees, the total package in that regard. But he can add an element to the game those guys absolutely cannot, an element to the game that makes him the most effective running quarterback we've ever seen in this league. That's got to be a part of it to go along with the new increased emphasis on his fundamentals.
I think it's very important, too, that Ron Rivera, that his message is consistent. If they're going to do what they want to do from a goal standpoint, they're going to have to probably go through Chicago. Ron Rivera cut his teeth, played his football there in Chicago. We're facing one of the best defenses in the league. Cam's coming off an injury. Well, let's sit Cam. Well, no. Let's get back to the way Carolina plays football, and we might see these Bears again. Send Cam out there in that Thursday night game against the Bears. I think it's a great message for your locker room.
You mentioned more, but what about the rest of the team around Cam Newton? Do you feel comfortable with what Ron Rivera's putting out there?
Oh, I really like the defense. I think this could be, you were talking about the Patriots being a top 5 defense. I think this Panthers team should be a top 5 defense. That front 7 is as good as any in the league. I think the Gerald McCoy addition is one of the best additions any team made this offseason. He's kind of been lost in the wilderness in Tampa Bay. This is an all-pro level D tackle that will make an instant impact. Everyone loves their linebacking core as long as Kuechly's out there. And so I like their front 7 a lot. And that's when Carolina's been at their best, when the defense has been getting after the quarterback, forcing turnovers.
Gerald McCoy next to Dontari Poe, next to Bruce Irvin, is going to play the right defensive end. Watch out for a kid from Florida State, Brian Banks. All right, he's more than just a rusher. He's going to be a 3-down defensive end. His potential, he potentially can have a 15-sack season in his NFL career. Phenomenal athlete on the outside.
Brian Burns, if you care about those spider chart stuff, off the charts. Unbelievable.
I love the spider charts. We got to take a break. Coming up, we got a special guest, NFL Executive VP, former All-Pro cornerback Troy Vincent joins us.
What's a spider graphic?
How you doing?
How can you not know what
I need one of those NFL 100
Stop
shirts,
it,
man.
stop it. I should have started here.
How did you start with
May
him?
I?
Oh.
How you doing?
Welcome back to First Things First. Look who's here, former All-Pro cornerback, current Executive VP of Football Operations, friend to CC, friend to me. Just met Nick. This is Troy Vincent. Yeah, that's all true.
Troy, tell America the truth here. What's up, man?
What's up?
Good to see
Nick and I, this is Uncle Nick.
Exactly.
Oh.
Thank you. And this is my play cousin, Troy.
I'm hoping today that we actually turn Nick from talking about basketball analytics.
Hey.
It is true football season, baby.
It is football season. I hope you are turning more of the league to actually embracing the analytics instead of saying, this is how Vince Lombardi did it. So you use your position of influence to do that.
You turn your attention to me so I can read this thing about Troy. Troy, you played in the NFL for 15 years. You spent more than half of that time with the Philadelphia Eagles, where you probably met some great, young, hungry, talented reporters along the way, asked great, probing questions. Anyway, you also matched up against some great receivers along the way. One of them included our Cris Carter. You tweeted out this throwback Thursday picture of you lining up against CC a few weeks ago. You remember that day, or you just found the picture? Be honest.
I remember that day. I remember that day. So I think we played against each other 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, not as many.
Not as many, but we went to the Dome. My most memorable moment, Jake Reed ran a 3-yard slant on me and went the distance early on. But we had our way. I think we had our way with Minnesota. We had our way with Minnesota. There were certain things they couldn't do. Bryant was sitting there in the middle of the field, so there were certain things that Randy would do, certain things that CC would do. He was just a big talker. He wouldn't be quiet.
Really? That's a shocker.
This guy would not be quiet.
What would he say to you, Troy?
Stop holding me. Stop grabbing me. I mean, just be quiet and play.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
no, he doesn't dispute any of it.
Denied any of it.
Stab him before the end of the
So you've grown from being a football player to a guy who deals and works with football players all the time. This is now your life. The NFL's Executive Vice President of Football Operations. Tell us what you do. So
I oversee game operations. At the end of the day, anything that surrounds the game. So all game logistics, officiating, rules. Wow. So just part of I'm the league's liaison as it pertains to the competition committee. I do a lot of listening, and then on game day, I'm watching and monitoring the games, and frankly, just making sure that the game continues to evolve. We keep the competitive balance, monitoring when we need to make adjustments and making those recommendations to ownership and the coaches.
Now, adjustment, you guys are making an adjustment after the playoff, the blown call there between the Rams and the Saints. Now we're going back and we're going to be able to review pass interference. For those fans, we're worrying about the time. We've gotten this thing right, where we're the most popular sport for a number of reasons. One is the time frame. We can pretty much predict around 3 hours and 5 minutes that game's going to be over. Are you concerned moving forward that might affect how long the game is now?
That was one of the challenges going in, as we discussed. We call that playing rule proposal number 6 of pass interference. This is the reason why membership, owners, general managers, and coaches, they only allowed the coaches to challenge that outside of 2 minutes, so that we know the game is really played inside of 2. And the new playing rule keeps it inside of our current review system, but it allows the coach to challenge something outside of 2 of the beginning of either half.
All right, so I want to follow up on this because my concern is less about the time and more about the butterfly effect of it. First one. What are we doing on Hail Marys? Because in baseball, it was going to be, hey, we're bringing in replay. It's going to be easy. We're going to see if a guy beat the tag. And then it turns out, well, he did beat the tag, but for a split second, he came off the bag, and now he's actually out when for 100 years he was safe. For a long time, there had been one set of rules for normal pass play, another set of rules for Hail Marys. How does that work with the review system now in place?
Leave it alone. We just leave it alone.
It's inside the 2 minutes.
It's inside of 2 minutes, and the
Hail Mary. But
it
it still can be reviewed inside of 2 minutes. Just can't be challenged.
We keep it the same. That's one of those things that came up in the debate, in the discussion. What do you do with Hail Mary? You leave it alone. You let it play out the way it's always played out.
And then one follow-up on that, because I read from, I think it was on the MMQB, that he's already hearing about coaches potentially coaching guys into how to draw the pass interference with a greater emphasis due to this rule change?
Well, you want to be careful because that can get overturned. So OPI could become a DPI. A DPI can become an OPI. So that's something, I don't know, you want to trick the system, it may backfire on you. But pace of play is critical. I think for all sports, in particular ours, we look at just 3 seasons ago, game time was at 3:08. Last year we finished at 3:04:26. So we're conscious of, we call that pace of play, officiating mechanics. CC, when we played, there were 5 breaks inside of each quarter. There are now 4. So we're very conscious of pace of play, and we feel comfortable in the system that the games won't be extended. Time
Why don't we have full-time referees?
Well,
you full-time. Roger, y'all making a bunch of money.
Here we go.
Why can't,
we do.
Y'all NFL making money?
We have full-time game officials. Why
aren't they all full-time is, I think, the question.
We're working. You know, we're working towards that. And frankly, over the last 2 or 3 seasons, we've studied a full-time game officials. We've had 24 where are the full-time game officials, are they outperforming those that aren't full-time? Now, during the season, these men and women, they put a lot of time and effort in. They are prepared. They're human. We play an imperfect game with imperfect people. So from time to time, there are going to be calls that we don't get that we would like to see. But we're aiming towards full-time game officials throughout the entire officiating body.
Troy, we always get a bunch of players on here that we talk to. We never get a good behind-the-scenes look at what actually happens. We spend an enormous amount of time talking about what's a catch, what's not a catch. What was going on behind the scenes when all of that information was coming in from everywhere and you guys had to actually make a decision on that?
That's a good rule change.
Because I don't know if fans really understand how much stress that is on the league to try to figure out which direction you're going to go in.
The catch, no catch. And we brought CC in, so we just said, okay, let's just start from scratch. Let's bring the greatest catchers who've played our game and those who have coached our game in particular, and let's define what a catch is. So, CC, I'm going to turn it to you because you were part of that process of what is a catch, what determines a catch, and he saw the disagreement himself with his peer group about what a catch is.
Can I just say, I think it's so interesting that instead of the league just making a decision, you said, well, who's catching the balls? Well, let's bring some of the greatest catchers in. It's just such a novel approach to how to actually make a rule change.
Yeah, it was a great approach if they had listened to me. But then they didn't. They brought me in there, served me lunch and everything, then did exactly what they wanted.
Well, we actually thought Steve Largent actually was more reasonable. And even Randy.
The catch, no catch rule, I thought removing the ground, because you do have to have everything you do as far as being in bounds. Control of the ball, 2 feet in or 1 body part. And then after that, you got to do something with the football. And that's the difference between high school, college, and pro. Can I see him actually transition to, I'm on the offensive side, and I do believe that it helps clear it up. Let's remove the ground, even though the ground is the box that we play on. I didn't think we should remove the ground, but when we did, I could see the argument. Bill Cowher, he had a very compelling. Largent was very good. Moss, not so much. So I could see Roger. Tim Brown was very good, but Steve Largent and the points they made, I compromised a little bit, and I gave up the point as far as the ground. But as far as control and a football move, I think that they got it right.
And Jenna, but that's our approach as we go into every offseason. It's let's bring in people, have an inclusive process. You get just better outcomes, and we've seen that with catch, no catch. We've seen that this O-line, D-line play. We saw it this year as it pertains to the pass interference. When you start bringing in all stakeholders, you just come out with a better outcome.
So you're in a very unique position because, as we talked about off the top, you had a very decorated long career yourself, and now you're as a defensive player, and now your job is to worry about the health of the league as a whole. You mentioned game day operations. I would imagine there's a bit of maybe even an internal conflict for you when you see the league going in a way that's obviously good for business. I think it's great for the viewer. I think it's great for the fan, which is a added focus on offense and making it so much harder for you to do your job as a player. When you're watching the games, how much does it remind you of when you were playing? And what's the biggest difference between, it's not like you're an old man now. You were playing recently.
Yeah, I am young.
Exactly right. Much younger than our friend here. What's the biggest difference between when you were playing just a decade ago?
Well, just knowing what I know now, I wish I'd have knew that. So there's no conflict. It's about doing the right thing for the game. So when you look at the game of professional football, it's why we're the best. It's why we're the most entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
It gets down to, here's the formula: number of plays, number of passes, number of penalties equals points. When the quarterback is upright and he's healthy, we have an exciting and a dynamic game. We have to protect the most valuable asset to a club, the QB. Plays, passes, penalties equals points. So these rule adjustments, oftentimes, they're necessary for the game. So there's no conflict. This is what is best for the game. We should not be taking unnecessary shots at an opponent, QB, receiver, whatever it may be. So there's no conflict.
We're approaching the 100th season. There's a number of things I'm looking forward to. There's a number of things I've been involved thanks to the NFL and NFL films. What are you looking forward to as we approach the 100th NFL season?
The emergence of these young stars. Last year, it was just phenomenal.
Gonna happen.
Going to happen. The inevitable is going to happen. It is here. But to see that emergence of the young stars with the Patrick Mahomes and you still having the Drew Breeses and the Tom Brady still there, these young stars and the greats just coming together. Yeah, it's
Saquon.
So that part that's exciting. And sometimes people don't want to pass the mantle. It was hard. Well, that's here. It is now. And we saw that play out a year ago. Just a fantastic season.
Troy, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you. I do have a gift for CC.
Oh.
If you don't mind.
Yes, please.
So every day I'm watching in the morning, I wake up and just check out you all's gear. And I'm just saying, okay, two things. One, I got a Buckeye bracelet.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
that is.
Just a little Buckeye bracelet.
Oh, okay.
That is awesome.
It's really nice. Got a little bling bling on it.
Yeah, a little bling bling. And then finally, I need you to represent the unique fraternity.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Wow.
Not the fraternity that just lives in Canton that you always talk about.
Turn it that way so they can see
So
it.
this is, CC, won't you explain what this is? I'd like to see this every morning.
This is the Walter Payton. This is the logo for Walter Payton. They changed it from the Man of the Year to the Walter Payton. I'm very, very fortunate to be one of the people. I was the first winner, and then also my brother here, he
That's
also won
great.
the award. So, yes, Walter Payton pendant. I will put it on lapel pin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I gave him two.
Oh.
So to make sure we want to keep one on the set in the event that he doesn't have one on when he shows up.
Yeah,
I'll just wear it.
Jenna, Nick.
No. You're everything but the Man of the Year.
So
No.
thank you.
Get
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Troy, thank you
Thank
so
you, bro.
much. All the best this year.
Give me-
Good luck
Thank
with
you.
everything this
Thank
season.
you.
Much more First Things First right after
See you,
this.
man.
Gifts.
Back here, Bart Scott, and we are going viral. Check out Bears head coach and former Arena League quarterback Matt Nagy dropping a dime in the back of the end zone. How about the throw, CC?
Oh, okay, here we go.
Let me see it. Ooh.
Oh, that's a good throw there.
Oh, wow.
He led him on the post.
Wow.
Oh, I like it, Nagy. That's a dime there. That is a dime.
It's a better throw than his quarterback capable of making.
Oh, wow. Are you just killing Trubisky, too, now? Just because
Bears
you
might
had
be in the
bad
Super Bowl.
quarterbacks forever don't mean all the quarterbacks are bad,
No, that
Bart.
makes me an expert when I
That's
see
a
one.
great throw. That's a great throw by the coach.
That's impressive. I didn't see that one coming.
That's nice.
You don't often see the head coach
CC, I ain't
get
got
out
no
there.
gifts for you on the set.
No, most of
Unleashed.
the guys in the
Not in that
NFL, they
shape.
can't play.
Right.
He was a practice squad quarterback with your Philadelphia Eagles, if I remember correctly.
Not when I was there.
Oh, well, at some point.
I don't think you would have
maybe.
been interviewing him.
Nah, he's too young.
Back to the Cleveland Browns now.
We got two jerks, Bart and Nick.
Yeah.
And we both equal opportunists.
By now you've heard the hype, the expectations in Cleveland. New coach, great players, sky-high optimism for the first time in years. Yesterday, first-year head coach Freddie Kitchens gave us a glimpse into how the show will be run moving forward. Take a listen.
The days of inside information and the days of unnamed sources and stuff like that have ended. So you're not going to get any information like that ever. Anybody. And if I ever see it, they're fired immediately. That's the way we're running this organization. And I can take it. John Dorsey can take it. We won't crack, I promise you.
Is it because he's done giving them out now that he's the head guy? Come on, quit playing, man. You can't stop leaks, bro. We call it the CIA when we was there, man. People always get those relationships with reporters and start leaking stuff to push their agenda.
All right, all that being said, assuming there are no more leaks, how difficult do you think it's going to be for this team to live up to all the expectations that are being put out there?
I mean, I heard you talk about Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs living up to their expectations earlier in the show. The difference was they were coming from a winning culture. They were coming from a winner environment. You talk about the coach and what Bill Belichick does up in New England, making sure that it's structure, accountability. They haven't had that in Cleveland, right? Coming from ownership. You know, now John Dorsey's come there and he's kind of righted the ship, got rid of Hugh. They had a coach fired in the middle of the season. You know, they have a lot to do. And really, when you think about the success of the team, who was the head coach last year? It was Greg Williams. So now Freddie Kitchens has to come in and he has to get the respect of the team. And of course, he's going to have the respect of the team early on. But what happens if they hit a bump? What happens if they don't live up to expectations? You know, they have a lot of a talent, but it's not about the most talented team. I mean, the most talented group of individuals. It's about the most talented team. And what they have within their division is a culture and an identity and an unquestioned boss and leader in that division. When you think about Tomlin, you think about Harbaugh, you think about the management. They've had structure. So they know how to get it done. They've seen super teams before.
But here's the distinction I would draw. They weren't that far away last year. They won 7 games last season. They were in, by the way. They damn near finished 8-7-1 at the end of the year,
Bro.
almost executing a comeback against Baltimore in a game Baltimore needed. Pardon me. And early in the year, they lost 3 games on kicks on the final play of the game.
That means 0.
Well, it means this. They didn't have – we're not talking about a team going from 3-13 to the playoffs. We're talking about a team going from 7.5 wins, which is what 7-8-1 is, to 10 wins. Like, just having Baker start from week 1 might have been worth a win for them last year. Then they'd have been 500 instead. Like, you're shaking your head, but we see teams improve by a couple of wins every year that don't add Odell Beckham, that don't add Olivier Vernon, that don't add Sheldon Richardson, that don't see the natural progression of their young blue chip talent like Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Baker Mayfield. I don't think it's unrealistic what we're talking about with the Browns. We're not talking about the 0-16 or 1-15 Browns making a huge leap because they got this influx of talent. We're talking about a team that was a half game under 500 last year making the leap because they had this influx of talent.
And I know you have a lot of intel on that division, and you did make 2 good points as far as the coaching and the programs there. Pittsburgh does have a program. They didn't make the playoffs. Harbaugh does have a program. They got a quarterback who can't throw. And the reason why I like Cleveland and Freddie Kitchens, because I visited them last year. I did a game late in the season. They were playing against Carolina. And Greg Williams, Untitled, was the head coach. But Freddie Kitchens ran the offense. So he was already running half the team. Greg doesn't do anything as far as the offense was concerned, so that made me more comfortable with Freddie Kitchens. And then spending time with Dorsey, spending time with Alonzo Highsmith, which I did this past weekend at the Hall of Fame, talking to them about the culture they're trying to establish. They realize that. They realize they don't have a culture yet. They're trying to establish, I believe, that their goals are realistic. But where you're wrong is Baker Mayfield is not a loser. All right, Baker Mayfield is a winner, and he is getting ready to change the culture. If it was a different position, then I would say, oh, you know something? Yeah, those young players, they have lost a lot of games. But Baker Mayfield hadn't lost a lot of games. He hadn't had a lot of bad experiences in Cleveland, and I believe that that's how they're able to turn the culture around. That's how the culture got created in Baltimore. That's how the culture got created in Pittsburgh. In Cleveland, they have a tremendous opportunity because of those teams. They have some glaring weaknesses.
See, but you talk about, you know, he has the talent, but they have some very volatile personalities within that locker room, and Baker being one of them. And we're going to see how they handle adversity. It's easy to win when nobody expects anything from you.
Bart,
when you come in and you're the hunted.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you were playing on the Browns, if you were one of the linebackers with the front that they have, what would you think your expectations for the season be? You're a player now. You're on that Browns team. You just came there being a veteran player. They brought you in. What would your expectations be?
Listen, well, my expectation is to be playing at a high level and be the best defense in the league. But also to make that happen, guys got to make sacrifices. Sheldon Richardson got to say, you know what? I understand that I get paid for sacks, but I got to hold this jump through. I can't sit and swim and not hold the jump through because I'm trying to eat. Because I'm trying to live up.
Highlight Myles Garrett.
Right. So what happens is you got to have people that's willing to take a step back. Like, yeah, individually I'm a great player, but maybe my stats may not reflect how great I am. So everybody, we saw this happen with the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They have been a losing program for pretty much their entire existence, right? And then they had one great year. What changed the next year other than the quarterback not playing as well? Right? They start feeling themselves. And it's different type of games you play when you look at the opponent and they fear you. When you look at Cleveland and you say, you know what, this is going to be a tough game, you're going to get everybody's best preparation.
Agreed. But the distinction between the Jaguars when they had their excellent season, by the way, even that excellent season, I think they won 10 games.
10-6.
And then they ended up upsetting the Steelers.
They should beat the Patriots.
Sure. But the regular season, they were good, not great, and then they had a really impressive playoff run. The distinction between them and this Browns team is that Jags team the following year had one way to beat you. Hold you to 17 or fewer. Because that offense was not going to do anything. They were running an old school offense with, I think, an overrated back in Fournette, a very limited quarterback in Bortles. This Cleveland team is going to be able to win games where the offense sputters, and they'll be able to win games where the defense sputters.
I've seen it.
Okay.
Right? No, when I say I've seen it, now Baker Mayfield has film out there in the same offense. So what the great defensive coach is going to do, they're going to break it down. And now he's going to be trying to facilitate and be a distributor to a lot of high
profile personalities. So tell me what Cleveland's record going to be this year. Since you're so pessimistic, what's the record going to be?
Listen, it could be 10-6 or it can be 8-8.
10-6 is a hell of a season.
Or it can be 8-8.
Okay.
They played against people that's been around the block before. We've seen
Lamar Jackson ain't been around no block.
Well, that organization.
Ben Roethlisberger ain't been around the block with them bum receivers he got.
All right, we gonna see, man.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.